Okuma Pro Todd Kline here, coming up May 7th and 9th, the third stop of the One Bass Tour. We're going to the Lake Havasu Open. We're going to dive into the baits, courtesy of Okuma. All right, as we dive into Lake Havasu, this time of year, the fish will be in all three phases. You're going to have pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. Majority of the fish probably have spawned, but again, they'll be in all three phases. So keeping that in mind is part of how I broke down the rods and baits that I'm going to go over with you guys today. The other thing that I'm going to keep in mind is, the elements out there, wind blowing, not blowing, and kind of the history and how it's played out in the past. I've had my best results out there at this lake. I'm excited to get out there, and I'm excited to share with you guys the baits that I'm going to start with on the deck of the boat, courtesy of Okuma. So starting out first is going to be a chatterbait. This one here is made by Ladies Man Custom. It's basically going to emulate a bluegill. This time of year, as I mentioned, the fish are up spawning. Well, right behind them, the bluegill and the red ear out there will spawn. And so it's kind of like a buffet coming straight to the bass. Whether it's pre-spawn or post-spawn, these fish want to eat. And probably one of the easiest things to get is coming right to them, and it's going to be a bluegill. So this is when the wind's blowing or early in the morning. If I've got some areas where I know there's fish and or some grass that I can rip this out of, this is a great bait. It's paired with a Yamamoto Senko on the back. It's a green pumpkin, and a lot of times I like to tip the tail with chartreuse. A lot of times when you're on the Colorado River, those tails on these bluegill literally are like, chartreuse, and they glow in the dark. That is paired up on an X Series reel along with the Okuma TCS rod. Great rod and reel right there for that technique. Something that will definitely be on the deck. Before I go into the rest of these, I kind of just want to break down the forage as a whole. I mentioned the bluegill. The other sought-after forage out there, we just left Clear Lake. We know that the hitch was a big deal up there. Previous to that, it was the trout and the kokanee up at Shasta. Out here on the Colorado River, it's going to be different. So you're going to have to switch things up a little bit. It's going to be about the bluegill, the shad. You got the standard thread fin, which you get a lot of the fisheries, but you also get big gizzard shad out there. I mean, they get massive, and it's a great opportunity at a lot of protein for one fish. So the big bass, especially the largemouth, are going to be trying to get onto those big gizzard shad. Crawdads, obviously, out there. My boys in Louisiana, I'm going to go ahead and say crayfish so you don't beat me up next time I'm out there, but out here we call them crawdads. And you're probably going to have a few other things. Obviously, they eat small bass and whatever else. They eat the baby striper too. So sometimes you'll see swim baits that will emulate those striper. So that kind of summarizes the forage. So I mentioned the chatterbait. Something that's always a factor no matter where we go is going to be a robo-worm drop shot. The water a lot of times out here at Havasu is pretty clear. So I like to try and go as realistic as possible. This is your standard oxblood color. This is paired up. A lot of times I'll run 10-pound braid, and then you change your top shot leader. Sometimes I'll go down to 6-pound, maybe even 5, depending on if the water's real clear and they're being finicky. If I'm around a lot of structure and it doesn't seem hard to get bit, I'll go as high as 10-pound. But this is paired up on the Okuma Reflections, and this is the ITX CB spinning reel. Again, a great setup there, and it's up to you, depending on if you want to go light line or heavier line. My theory's always been you got to get bit before you can get broke off, and which brings me to this. This bait right here, the cool baits, has always been a big factor for me out here at Lake Havasu. Was able to win an MLF event a couple of years ago and actually caught a 7.2 largemouth on this bait on 5-pound test, and that's what I was mentioning a moment ago. Sometimes you got to go light to get bit. I did some interviews after the fact, and guys were saying, do you think you really had to go 5-pound? I don't know, but you got to get bit before you can get broke off. So a lot of times I will be throwing this on 5-pound out there. You'll throw this around, and same for the drop shot. These are very diverse baits. You can throw them anywhere. The one thing you won't want to do, because this is an exposed hook, is actually try and throw it and bring it up in and bang one of those cages, because it's going to hang up. But, with our technology nowadays, you can parallel those cages to a T. I refer to them as cages. It's the man-made structure out there. big townhomes that the Department of Fish and Game strategically built. They did a fantastic job, and they are literally like freshwater reefs out there and great ecosystems. You got everything in and around them, and those big largemouth really like to get up into those. And so I'll parallel those big structures with this bait, come right by it, and those largemouth will come shooting out and eat that bait. I also like to throw this around the long points. Sometimes I'll get up on top of it, throw it way out, and bring it uphill. Other times, depending on the angles you want, you can throw it from, bring it up the sides of them, and that type of thing. There's, as I mentioned in the lake breakdown, you got a lot of outside humps. This is another area I like to throw this. Earlier in the year, the smallmouth really key in on that, but now where we're at here in May, both the largemouth and smallmouth will generally tend to eat that cool baits. So we go from something emulating a small shad to a much bigger bait. This is bent baits. It's I believe a guy out of San Diego makes a great glide bait. This is going to emulate, as I mentioned earlier, that big gizzard shad, as well as some of the larger thread fin. This is a bait, at a lot of these events, I like to have a big bait on the deck. I will generally, take the hooks off or put some hooks on there that I have clipped already, so it doesn't change the balancing too much. And the reason you do that, especially at the Colorado River, guys, is you do not want to catch fish in practice. Yeah, it's cool. Your boys will high five you. You caught a 6.5 in practice. That 6.5 will go a long way once the scales are turned on. But more importantly, this bait's going to show you those fish because you're going to get a lot of followers. So whether it looks like they will commit to a big bait like this, they'll show themselves. And sometimes you can come back through and catch them on a drop shot or a Senko or something else like that. But I will generally keep that on the deck, especially in practice to find them. But then also once the tournament starts, that's a great way to get a kicker. And you can throw this again everywhere, but a lot of times the big bluff walls that are out there, I mean, they'll go from 0 to 50 feet pretty darn quick. Big smallmouth like to get up along those things and just sit in the shade and that type of thing. You parallel those walls and they'll pin that thing against it, and you can get some big smallmouth on that bait as well as largemouth. But the largemouth generally are going to be more around the grass, the trees, and that structure, that man-made structure I was mentioning. Next up, deep diving crankbait. This time of year, the grass is starting to grow. Water's warming up. When the water warms up, sun gets down and hits the areas that it needs to get that grass growing. This bait here is a Spro deep diving crankbait. It's a Little John. You get this down, depending on the pound test, I usually throw it on 12. Get it down around that 18-foot range with a good long cast. This is the Okuma X series. With that 12 pound, I can make super long casts. It's paired on this TCS, which is a 711. It's a long rod, almost 8 feet. It's the power crank in the TCS series. So the combination of the X series reel and that 711 rod here with the perfect parabolic for a crankbait, you can throw this thing a country mile and get it down to areas where a lot of guys can't get to with a crankbait, and you can get some big bites. Got some last year in the actual tournament, same time of year on this bait, and not a lot of fish, but generally can get 1 or 2 each day that pays dividends in the overall bag. Last but not least, and again, this is just a few of the rods that'll be on the deck during practice and probably during the tournament, but is some version of a Senko. I like to throw a very finesse bait out there. It's the thin Senko. This is a green pumpkin. It's paired up on a 3/0 rebarb hook. It's the Okuma TCS spinning reel, again with the Okuma TCS rod. Great setup here. And again, all my spinners here, I've got 10-pound braid on them. And then I just change the leader based on what I'm throwing. I'm not sure. Generally, I put 6-pound on this out there, but we'll see what's going on. Sometimes you got to go heavier. Sometimes you got to go lighter. But a lot of times at Havasu, when you're throwing this type of bait, distance is your friend. This rod is 7.6. And with the combination of that light braid and that rod and this reel, you get that distance, and you're going to have a lot more opportunity at bites. This can be tough if there is some wind out there, but it's definitely something, if the conditions permit, you will want to throw. A couple other honorable mentions. The topwater bite starts when it starts. And we haven't heard of anything going on yet, but the frog bite, I mentioned in the lake breakdown, some of those backwaters, they're a little bit ahead of the main bowl and or the lake itself. So the water's warmer back there. So good chance that frog bite could start back there and or some topwater. So good chance that I'll have, both of those probably tied up in practice as well. Hopefully this, guys, gives you a jump start into breaking down Lake Havasu, whether you're coming out for our event May 7th through 9th or you're just coming out in general. These are great baits for you guys to throw out here, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the water. We'll see you at the Riviera Resort.